The Department of Labor, Employment, and Training Administration has approved trade adjustment assistance. In this video, we will cover the benefits that are available to you under this certification. TAA Benefits Information. Trade Adjustment Assistance, TAA. Benefit Rights Informational Meeting, BRIM. Trade Adjustment Assistance Objective. The objective of the Trade Adjustment Assistance Program is to assist workers who lost their jobs due to foreign imports find suitable employment. The goal of this presentation is to explain all of the benefits available to you from your current certified trade petition as determined by the United States Department of Labor. Overview of benefits, TAA, Trade Adjustment Assistance, services available to you under TAA, employment and case management services, job search and relocation allowances, training, including on-the-job training, RTAA, wage subsidy, TRA, Trade Readjustment Assistance, unemployment income support funding. Presentation overview, we'll go over definitions and terms, procedures to apply for benefits, timeframes to apply for benefits, forms included in your packet must be completed and returned to apply. It is recommended you keep a file with all your TA-related paperwork. You will receive a copy of your determination letter. Please keep a copy of this in your file. Your next step, once you receive the determination letter, your process for TAA, TRA will begin. Bring this letter to the meeting with your case manager. Contact your counselor or case manager to schedule an appointment to complete the necessary paperwork, testing, and may include developing an employment plan and/or completing a waiver. Assessment testing is used to determine your current skill levels. The consultation will assist you in meeting required deadlines to ensure your benefits. Definitions. When we talk about TAA, we are talking about training, job search, relocation, employment, and case management services. When we talk about TRA, we are talking about your income support. First, we're going to talk about TAA. Employment plan. You and your case manager will develop an employment plan outlining your goals. Employment plan may include only job search activities and reemployment services, or the employment plan may involve training to obtain additional skills, certifications, and credentials that will increase your employment opportunity. Waivers. The waiver process must begin within 26 weeks of the most recent qualifying separation or the certification date of the petition, whichever is later. The date will be located on the determination letter. The local TA case manager will complete the waiver and explain the timeframes and procedures. It is your responsibility not to miss this or any other deadline. Training approval criteria. The Department of Labor requires that all approval criteria is met prior to authorizing a training program. No suitable employment is available. You must benefit from the training. Reasonable expectation of employment following completion of the training. Training is reasonably available from either government agencies or private sources. Qualified to undertake the complete training. Training is suitable to the worker and available at a reasonable cost. All TA training must result in a credential. Training approval. You can have more than one training component in your employment plan based on your specific occupational goals. Multiple training components must be requested upon initial training setup. Training components cannot be added at a later date. Occupational goal must be an in-demand occupation. Below are some websites that may be useful in defining your new employment goals. ONET Career Site, West Virginia Labor Market Information. Training opportunities. Available at TA-approved schools and include but are not limited to vocational training, technical training, remedial education training, college and universities, on-the-job training, and other customized trainings. Please note that Pell Grant awards may be used for living expenses. A list of approved schools can be found at mac.gov/TA. taa.workforcewv.org. If you are interested in a school not listed, contact your case manager. Classroom training. TAA will pay up to $35,000 for training costs. This includes tuition, fees, registration, lab costs, parking, other fees, books, equipment. Please note that equipment must be required for all students. Miscellaneous supplies. You are potentially eligible for 130 weeks of classroom training. Training. Travel allowance, payable for mileage outside the state TAA commuting area of 20 miles round trip only. Subsistence allowance, room and board. Direct costs, the school will bill the TAA program. Indirect costs, student pays, submits original receipts to get reimbursed. Miscellaneous supplies, not to exceed $150 per quarter, semester, term, or session. Distance learning, online. Training classes that you take from a home computer or off-campus site. If you choose to take training courses from home or from sites other than the school, all of the unemployment filing requirements remain in effect, including the authorized school signature required, and you are responsible to make arrangements to get this done. If you do not get an authorized signature on your unemployment claim form, you will not receive a check. TAA additional training benefits. Laptop computer reimbursement package. TAA will authorize up to $1,300 for this one-time only reimbursement of the following computer equipment: laptop computer, printer, laptop sleeve or carrying case, mouse, flash drive, Microsoft Office home and student software, antivirus, and other warranties. You may be eligible for this reimbursement if the following criteria is met. A participant must be in a full-time training program of 6 months or more, must complete a quarter, semester, term, or session, must maintain satisfactory progress. Speak with your TAA case manager upon completion of your first term in order to apply. These costs are in addition to the $35,000 training costs. Travel allowances. Travel requirement. Travel allowance is payable only for mileage outside the state TAA commuting area of 20 miles round trip. TAA will pay the current state mileage rate of .575, not to exceed $50 per day. The mileage rate is reviewed by the governor's office twice a year, January and July. If the mileage rate changes, your mileage rate will change. No travel allowance authorized for an OJT program. These benefits are in addition to the $35,000 training allowance. Subsistence allowance. If you attend training outside your normal commuting distance, TAA will pay room and board expenses. TAA may pay 50% of the federal per diem rate. This rate is calculated by the federal government at www.gsa.gov. Subsistence travel will be paid one way to training and one way back from training and is not capped at $50 per day. On-the-job training. TAA will pay an OJT employer 50% of your wages up to $35,000 and for a training period not to exceed 104 weeks. Full-time permanent employment. All OJT training must pay the employee the minimum of $11 per hour, must be full-time employment, must lead to permanent employment, and the training outline plan must justify the training hours. If within 30 days of the start date you learn the position will not lead to full-time permanent employment, you may quit the training and ask for new or different training. Before quitting the training, you will need to do two things. Call your TAA case manager so they can verify the position will not lead to full-time employment and get permission to change your training plan. You will also need to contact the TRA unit to get permission to quit so it will not affect your unemployment. Job search allowance. Must call the state TAA unit at 1-877-967-5498 for approval prior to the actual interview. Provide company name, interviewer name, phone number. May cover 90% of expenses for an actual interview with a company outside your normal commuting distance of 10 miles one way or more. Mileage is paid at 90% of calculated mileage for any miles outside the normal commuting area of 20 miles round trip. Google Maps, MapQuest. All other costs may be reimbursed at 90% of actual costs. Keep and submit receipts, lodging, meals, or other related costs. Will be reimbursed for covered expenses up to $1,250. Job search allowance. Procedures. Submit original receipts for the dates of approved travel within 5 business days. All original receipts should be submitted and include date, business name, business address. When you turn in these receipts, make sure your name and the items are listed, such as food, lodging, etc. Relocation allowance. You must have accepted a job outside your normal commuting distance, 10 miles one way or more, and received approval from the state TAA unit prior to your move. TAA will pay up to 90% of reasonable and necessary expenses. In addition, you will receive a lump sum payment of 3 times your former average weekly wage, up to $1,250 for your move. Job search, relocation. These processes are time sensitive. You have 425 days from the date of separation or 182 days from completion of training. Contact Tabitha Burdette at the central office, 1-877-967-5498, to make sure you do not miss these deadlines. These benefits are in addition to the $35,000 training allowance. Reemployment Trade Adjustment Assistance, RTAA. RTAA is a wage subsidy program for workers who are age 50 or older and have returned to work. RTAA will pay you 50% of the difference between the wages you received at your trade-affected employer and the wages you receive from your new employment. You may receive these benefits up to $10,000 or 2 years, 104 weeks, whichever comes first. The eligibility period begins the earliest of the exhaustion of your unemployment benefits or reemployment. RTAA Restrictions. You may also be eligible for this program after the completion of a TAA-approved training program. However, any TRA benefit weeks received while attending a TAA training program will reduce the number of RTAA weeks and a portion of the $10,000 benefit amount based on this following Department of Labor formula. An example is 104 weeks of RTAA minus 20 weeks of TRA received equals 84 divided by the 104 equal 0.81 times 10,000 leaves $8,100 of benefits available and must be claimed within an 84-week period. RTAA benefits you receive in excess of $600 is a taxable income. RTAA qualifications. To qualify for RTAA, an individual must meet all of the following requirements. Covered by an approved TAA petition, you must be at least 50 years of age. If you are not enrolled in TAA approved training, you must meet the state definition of full-time employment, a minimum of 35 hours per week. If you are enrolled in a full-time TAA approved program, you can work part-time, but at least 20 hours per week. You are projected to earn not more than $50,000 per year. You cannot be employed at the firm from which you were separated. Please note it is possible to receive TRA prior to RTAA eligibility, but once a worker elects RTAA, the worker cannot return to TRA. If you need more information or need the forms to file for the RTAA program, please contact the RTAA coordinator at 1-877-967-5498. Please note that One Stop Workforce West Virginia local offices do not have these forms. Questions about TAA? Please contact the central office at 1-877-967-5498 or by email at taacoordinator@wv.gov.
Now let's talk about trade readjustment assistance. This is your income support while attending approved TAA training, administered by the Unemployment Insurance Division. When contacting your local unemployment office, make sure to inform them that you are a dislocated worker and that you are covered by an approved TAA TRA petition. Program qualifications. To qualify for TAA TRA benefits under this petition, you must meet the federal definition of an adversely affected worker, apply for the trade program benefits and receive a positive determination. You must be separated due to lack of work on or after the impact date and before the petition expiration date. Also, you must have been entitled to and exhausted benefits from regular unemployment compensation. You must have worked at least 26 weeks with wages of $30 or more each week in the adversely affected employment. And that's in the 52 weeks prior to the ending with the week of your first separation. Here's a benefit payment overview. Income support is calculated as follows. You're entitled to 26 weeks of regular unemployment, 26 weeks of basic TRA, 65 weeks of additional TRA benefits for a total of 117 weeks of income support, and then if needed, 13 more weeks of completion TRA for a total maximum of 130 weeks. Basic TRA. In order to draw basic TRA, you must have exhausted all regular unemployment. You must be in or have completed an approved TAA training program or scheduled to start an approved TAA training program within 30 days, or have a waiver in place within 26 weeks of the certification date of the petition or within 26 weeks of your last qualifying separation, whichever is later. The 26-week 6-month rule. If you are not in training or do not have a waiver in place within 6 months from the last qualifying separation or the certification date of the petition, whichever is later, you will not be eligible to receive TRA benefits. You have 104 weeks from your last qualifying separation to receive all unemployment and basic TRA benefits. Any basic TRA not filed for during your eligibility period will be lost. Additional TRA. It will provide up to 65 weeks of additional income support to individuals who are still in training. In order to receive the TRA additional income support, you must 1. Have exhausted your TRA basic. 2. Be enrolled as a full-time student in a TAA approved training. And 3, maintain a 2.0, which would be a C average or better. Once the training ends, this money stops. No training can be added to allow you to be paid TRA benefits, and there are no unexcused absences while you are on additional TRA. The eligibility period for additional TRA begins the first week after you file for TRA additional benefits entitling you to 65 weeks of income support within a 78-week period. Any weeks not filed for during the eligibility period will be lost. Now, completion TRA. If required benchmarks were identified and included in your employment plan, you may be eligible for up to 13 weeks of completion TRA to allow you to finish school. If completion TRA is part of your training plan, you could have up to a total of 130 weeks in training. If benchmarks were identified on the employment plan showing completion TRA is needed to finish school, the maximum amount of completion TRA is 13 weeks. There is a 20-week period to access the 13 weeks of completion TRA, beginning with the first week in which the individual files a claim for completion TRA. TRA weekly benefit amount is the weekly benefit amount you were entitled to on your first or partial unemployment claim opened after the impact date of this petition. Incomes such as pensions deducted from this unemployment claim will also be deducted from your TRA payments. You must continue to report all work and earnings. However, while you are attending full-time TAA-approved training, any earnings from employment that are equal to or less than your TRA weekly benefit amount are not deductible from your TRA checks. Claim forms. Weekly continued claim form. Before entering TAA-approved training, the weekly claim form for benefits are filed online or by telephone. After entering TAA-approved training, you will receive a claim form and it must be filed in person, by fax, email, or mail. Once you begin receiving TRA benefits, the payment will be made by check. Payment cannot be made to debit card or direct deposit at this time. Here's a copy of a claim form if you are attending TAA-approved training. There will be 2 weeks that you will file for on this claim form. Please make sure that you complete it in its entirety and sign and date it. Here is the back page of the TRA claim form. This is the part that the school will complete. This is the claim form that you would receive if you are not yet in TAA-approved training but under a waiver. This claim form would be also completed in its entirety, and the back of the claim form will have a place where you would enter your job contacts. Until you are in TAA-approved training, you must have 2 job contacts per week. Claim forms. The weekly attendance and progress must be signed by an authorized official as the training provider. Unauthorized signatures will result in delay of payment. And do not send bi-weekly claim forms to the TRA unit in Charleston. You would send these to your local office. If attending any classes during a week with a scheduled break, get the authorized signature on the claim form before classes close for the break. If you do not get the signature before classes close, your payment will be delayed. Contact the TRA unit in Charleston, West Virginia for directions if you fail to get the required signature before the break in classes. TRA benefit payments during scheduled breaks in training will be made if the following conditions are met. The break in training does not exceed 30 days, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and state and/or federal holidays. You were participating in a TAA-approved training program before the beginning of the break and resume participation immediately after the break ends. The break is provided for in the training provider's published curriculum schedule or the approved training plan. A new regular unemployment claim must be filed at the expiration of any benefit year. If you do not file a new claim, unemployment checks will stop until a new claim is filed. The local office will not contact you to file a new claim. It is your responsibility. A TRA choice provision. There is no choice if the weekly benefit amount on the new unemployment claim that you have filed is greater than the weekly benefit amount on TRA. This is a one-time choice that must be made in writing before any weeks are paid on your new unemployment claim. This is designed to eliminate the risk of being forced to take a reduced weekly benefit amount on a second claim. You may be permitted to return to the new unemployment claim at a later date. Recall. If you are recalled to work by your former employer at your customary wage and job duties, you must take the job unless you are participating in TAA-approved training or have been approved for TAA training that is scheduled to begin within 30 days. If you accept a recall to work by your former employer and you voluntarily quit or are fired, you will lose your TRA income support. Unsuitable work. If you need to accept unsuitable work, you may quit that job without any disqualification, or if you are offered unsuitable work, you may refuse it without fear of penalty to enter into, participate in, or resume approved training. Very important, though, that you always discuss quitting or refusing work with your local unemployment office prior to actually doing so. HCTC. This is the Health Coverage Tax Credit. It is administered by the IRS. You can go to the website that you see listed, and it pays 72.5% of your monthly health care premium, or you can receive a tax credit of 72.5% on your income taxes. You must be TRA eligible to qualify for this program. Military. If you are called up for active duty or full-time National Guard service under a call or order of more than 30 days, or if, as a member of the Army or Air National Guard, performed full-time duty for 30 consecutive days or more when authorized by the President or Secretary of Defense for the purpose of responding to a national emergency. Before you enter into or complete the TAA-approved training program, you will be permitted to begin training again upon returning. This will not apply if the training program has been completed. Just some general rules. Income support payments will be reviewed based upon your last separation from the petitioned employer. If the most recent separation was not due to lack of work from a recall, income support payments will be denied. TRA benefits are taxable income that must be reported when filing your personal income tax. Please be sure to contact your local office if you want to deduct 10% per week for the federal taxes. If you have questions about TRA, please be sure to contact your local office. This concludes the Benefit Rights Informational Meeting.